Okay, here we are again.
Again, again, and again, and again. Does this ever stop?
The adventure continues, just as life is going and going and going for us. And we've got another episode of the Danny and Troy show, and we unfortunately last episode got cut off quickly and abruptly without due to network difficulties. That I think is just on my side. I've got to look into what's going on with my internet
Yeah,
service
we're going to
provider.
sue. Yeah, we're going to sue.
But to tidy up from yesterday, we've got just a few more comments, I guess. Well, Danny, you had something to add to what I was talking about in terms of relating to the context that you put forward, the business aspects to it, and the deep and kind of, I feel those wise and ancient almost messages coming through
It's not me, Troy. It's these people speaking through me. Okay, I'm innocent.
And well, I think that's what creative writing is about, letting things flow, being open and letting, these messages, whatever they are, come through. And, I see it in so many different pieces of artistic expression or creative expression, whether it is a painting or, a poem or a song or a movie. And this is where I think, when I'm seeing it, we know we're on the right track. I mean, I know I'm on the right track when in terms of creative expression. That's, I think, one of the major essences of what it's all about. So I think I've recapped what I was talking about at the end of last session, but what are your thoughts, Danny?
Well, there were a couple of things that I did want to say before the god of electricity, would that be Thor? Saw fit that I do not disclose too many secrets, to the uninitiated, because they just, be wasted. It was like Jesus spoke in parables, because if he'd have told them straight out what they needed to know, they wouldn't have got it. They wouldn't have gotten it, right?
Sure.
And I'm not comparing myself to Jesus because I'm not a fictional character. I'm a real guy. See? I'm awake too. But the comments that I wanted to make, the atheist that I am, principally was in the line of one of your comments about bridging the gap, which always is present in my mind if we're going to be approaching business people, which I think is the underlayment, right, of why we're doing what we're doing in a sense. And I wanted to say that life is business. Yeah?
Sure.
You don't have to start or have a second life to be in business because your life is your business. And if you can't manage your own life, you can't manage your own business.
Sure.
And I think that includes a lot of things like, certain levels of awareness that we have about ourselves, where we are, what we're doing. And in terms of the character, I have a couple more to go through, and hopefully I'll reach a point where that will justify all of this soul searching, all of these mental exercises that the character Drukpa is going through to try and reach some sort of resolution. And I think, just to spoil it a little bit, he's looking for an energy pathway, if I can say that, rather than I want to make widgets, right? I want to make the best widgets in the world.
Mm-hmm.
whether people need them or not, and that seems to me more and more, maybe because of where I am or because of where the world is going, that they the world wars, and first it was swords and arrows and then stones and whatever, and then it got to the point in our lifetime where it became, bombs and bullets and atomic weapons and things like that.
Mm.
And now we're at a point where it's like a digital war, right? Cyber warfare, or like they like to call it, a hybrid warfare, meaning principally everything we have in the drawer, we're going to throw at you.
Yeah.
And it's like, that doesn't seem to me to be intelligent, right? It's sure, I'm not saying that politicians are intelligent. I don't think I've ever met one that was. But, it's like war is or a camel is a horse designed by a committee, right? And in order to grasp all of this, it's necessary for one to be honest with oneself first, last, and always, if in no other way. And we're going through a process here of character development, a little bit what I would go through anyway, and I'm a famous actor, would be to be the character myself. I think the terminology is so old, I've forgotten it, where either you develop the character inside out or you do it outside in.
Okay.
And I approach it from the inside, right?
Okay.
Slowly melding myself into the character, in this case, maybe a little different because, well, maybe not so much, of disclosing this character to myself, which principally started, as you well know, with this Divine Madman.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't play the Divine Madman the same way that Robert De Niro would, or anybody else for that matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we used to have a thing we would say, which is, don't see the movie before you play the character, right? Even if it's hasn't been cinematized yet or anything like that, it's mostly stage acting, which is where people relate to people beyond the fourth wall without making eye contact, right? There's some theater where you can do that, but there is a distance there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And in doing all of this, I have found that Drukpa is a character that is barefoot and walking on a floor covered with tacks.
Okay.
Right? And the object, of course, is not to step on a tack.
Okay. Okay.
But if you do, you invariably may end up stepping on multiple other tacks.
Sure.
And the moment that you do, you'll find a way of expressing that sensation.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you grit your teeth, and try not to let anybody know that you're suffering,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe you want them to know that you're suffering, all keeping in mind what the point of it is.
Okay.
Right? Why are we there? Why are we doing this? And in creative expression, the expressor is, I think, channeling himself in a situation that another person, the author, is expressing something, may I say, universal, at least between the two, that the actor or the character wants to find some sense of camaraderie or something in common. Maybe it's just to say, am I okay? Do you understand what I'm saying? Or because if you don't, then we've lost touch and I have less motivation to do what I'm doing, and wherever that goes, closing on opening night kind of a thing.
Okay. Okay.
So, I wanted to say that one of the qualities that the character is developing is something I wrote down and said, don't stop to judge. Because even if the character does that, then he's no longer the character. He's, someone within himself, self-critiquing himself. And I think that kind of work is done when the performer or the guy with the creative expression is, I think I did something screwy here.
We just lost your video, but I can still hear you.
So many keys in front of me. I don't know which one to choose. Here, I'll choose that one. How's that?
Yeah.
All you got to do, brush some dust off your keyboard, and it's like, woof, where am I now? I don't know. Just teleported myself somewhere else. Anyway, so I'll crank up the little iPad mini here, which I think is getting full. Actually, I think I'm going to buy myself another one, maybe a little bigger. Is where he wants desperately to reach a conclusion about this, and he's still scratching and clawing at all of the things that he's opened up to himself.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
Trying to sort it all out. So,
yep.
Without further ado, let's see what we have. This one's not that long, really. It should be okay. I call it Steel Trap.
Yep.
It was a matter of trust for Drukpa, our hero. He knew himself well enough to know he would know it when he saw it. He knew that from past experience that when it was right, he would know it. He wasn't going to spend time fretting and worrying about whether or nots. He felt that gave him a distinct edge. For him, it wasn't about missing an opportunity. He wouldn't do that, and he wasn't going to spend any unnecessary time staying focused on imaginary things or imaginary beings either, who would fly to his rescue. Nonsense. He would face it himself, whatever it would be. It was a nondescript object or objective. It was in many ways a projection that he would conjure up himself with all of the attendant weaknesses inherent within himself. The good, the bad, and the ugly. The ugly could become beautiful too. Nothing was born bad. It was us that made it so. The courage of the Amish was with him. Only things that didn't exist were evil. Those things that didn't exist. So how could that concern him? Fantasy, he supposed. That created a dilemma for him because God, by definition, didn't exist. The eternal was that which never changed. If it didn't move, it didn't exist. The soul was a self-mover and didn't enter into the discussion, not yet anyway. The eternal never changed. In his definition of eternal and evil were correct, then how could evil not exist? It too would then be eternal. He did everything he could to stay away from those fantasies. They only spelled trouble. Everything that began as one expanded to include all things and became one again. Thus was the universe, the pulse of which notions of good and evil were inclined along with their offshoots like symbolic forces too narrow to actually exist. Let's say it was so. Evil or non-being were eternal. What was evil first? Evil is defined by that which is not. It is not being. It is vacuum, vacancy. It could be non-changing like God. If God is all things, then God would be evil as well. The evil is just a word describing limitations. That's why some religions describe non-being by things that it is not, instead of that which is. Some people refer to the object of their faith as, you know what I mean. Let's play a game. Let's say evil is change. Like being then, weaving itself into every sort of being, impossible to catch, define, or remain at rest. It could be that space between one position and the next, between one being and its inevitable next. A passage. But he saw that as life. But was evil really so bad? Did it simply function to deceive people? An opposite? Was there such a thing as evil? Was it contradiction, abstraction, dysfunction, a being against? Contradiction created by those who created God as absolute, by name only? Were we arguing against a premise? We were just entertaining an idle mind. Were we occupying our minds by thinking we were actually having an effect upon the universe around us when we could not even function to cause anything? What is absolute? Anything or nothingness? Everything? Absolute is singular. He was playing with language. The moment something becomes singular, it contradicts itself by becoming something else. So evil is being? Or are we creating evil for the purpose of creating contradiction, going against God through an act of creation? He has to be a theosophist by default. Dealing in other areas made him a mystic. Okay, if it's so. If absolute is singular, then can it be zero as well? Nothingness is one in and of itself. From 0 to 1 is movement or creation. From 1 to 0 is movement and the creation of nothingness, the absolute. The solution lies in change, like a magnet thrust and removed, rotating in a field to create electricity, which is change in energy. Somewhere in all of this was defining an essential ingredient of change. He was interested in change, going from a messy world, fallen prey, to a dysfunctional explanation of attempts to keep things as they were, which is to say evil, to suspend creation. That was his reasoning. That was what he saw to utilize the bridge of change. That space between what something is and what it used to be or what it will be. That entry point was what he was looking for, to be in the right place at the right time. A real crapshoot, elusive at best, but certainly not seeming, which was opinion. Reality wasn't the question. Reality could be manipulated. Only imagination was the real powerhouse. Sight. That's where energy slept. That's where energy is born, transmogrified. Seize that, find a way past those tightly held lips, inside where birth was held in moisture, in weight, in potential, in kinetic reserve. Find a place there, become energy. The resemblance to sex was undeniable, but to begin the process, not to wet the lips or gain an erection, but to erect the delivery vehicle, it was necessary to cajole her attention, sweet talk his way into that place where he could ejaculate. It was necessary to dispense with resistance, also known as pain, and ease his way in with total compliance with entry permission, an encouragement that would bypass all greedy self-centeredness of misdirected personal gain to the object most treasured in all pursuits, which is to say, eternal life, immortality. Then and only then would time be defeated. That measurement of movement that signifies death, so often misrepresented, which is only a change of state of life. Nothing died. How foolish. Life cannot die. Death is evil, a misinterpretation of a change of state into an element of lies to tempt greed, a hunger beyond satisfaction, hoarding, to lure hunger in a malign manner against the natural flow of things. Death is another non-being, non-changer, immortal, non-existent darkness. Death of the living may not occur. Dismiss it. In the Garden of Eden, God is seen to resist change. Drupal shook his head, as if awakening from a blow. He had penetrated the latex that held air captive in a balloon without bursting it. Fly away. But first, to achieve some understanding, of course, one thing led to another. Any completion led to its dissatisfaction and on to another, such as learning and learning to forget. That'll do it, Troy.
Okay.
I'd love to have your impressions on with one word. Let me just say that the author and the character are both driving furiously towards a conclusion on that he hoped to achieve, which I think, if the message came across clearly enough, is he's not looking at an object, he's not looking at anything except trying to seek a way to harness energy. You know, that was how he saw being in the right place at the right time.
Right.
Which kind of works against the traditional meaning of being somewhere at the right moment. Is just that with that eternity in time of transition, which is energy, he should be able to plug himself in anywhere, and may I say, at any opportune moment, without waiting for an opportune moment to come.
Right.
But if he's in the life stream or the energy stream, then there's no such thing as time or place, and that he can, upon his own command, take possession. And that's important because if he's trying to control all of the money in the world, the very definition of money itself may change. So he's looking for the source of energy, not how it manifests itself, but just to be that leaf in a stream, maybe a leaf with fins, so he can manage, to get around in it. And make happen what he wants to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And the struggle of the character and the author is rather awesome because we're trying to engage people's thinking in such a way as to show them that we can bridge that gap, not between materialism, objectivity, or whatever, but in the very change itself.
Sure.
Be able to determine outcomes without abiding by laws of physics or materialism, objectivity, whatever you want to call it. And that was very difficult for me and Drukpa to get to that point. And I think if I could, I'm not going to do it tonight, but if I could try to sum it up, I've started on the next chapter already, which deals with, of course, freedom is fundamental.
Okay.
And that there is no external authority, which is hopefully the product of all of this wild thinking he's been going through to get to the point where he's in command. And at that point in time, then he can determine how to apply his command, rather than if he's trying to stop the ocean waves from, washing up to his throne like Xerxes did. Well, that's not the point. That's not the point at all. That's how the point has manifested itself in this character at that point in time, and his own issues of authority, without mentioning it in the book, right? So getting to that point where he becomes facile, right? He becomes energy itself if he can find a way in and maintain his consciousness about it to reach his goal.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I find it, really intriguing, this aspect of the space that you mentioned in this piece around 0 to 1, 1 to 0, and the in-between state. There has to be some sort of space in there to go, that when you talk about aspects of time, take them out of the situation, but there is a transition, 0 to 1, and that what is in between is a bit of a mystery, and that's what I find intriguing, and I think that's what is coming out in terms of the story and the musings of Drukpa, and it's I'm interested. I mean, I see that being the answer to what he's looking for, but he already sees it and understands that's where it is. But like you're saying now, how to kind of get into that space or control it, or without actually being 0 or 1. So
somewhere in between, huh?
Somewhere in between.
Yeah, and I could have taken a much easier route, but I'm not sure that I would have had a story.
Sure.
Rather than to do something, unique. At least I feel it's unique, and being closer and closer to that space. I guess it feels like it's almost automatic that different information is starting to come to me from different sources that otherwise I have not been aware of, whether it's a YouTube presentation by somebody, or a news article, and then I have a kind of a little awakening in my head that this may be a clue about how to take this thing forward, since we're explorers just landed on the coast of Mexico, right, or Cuba or wherever, from 2 or 3 months at sea. Now we're here and we can't make heads or tails out of anything, right? It's that journey from the departure, port of departure, to your arrival in a destination. It's not being there, but it's what kind of person are you as a result of the trip.
Sure.
right? And then it's very easy to make comparisons, which I think has been done several times as they began to exploit the New World, is that we remember, what we see is in connection with what we remember and the context that we left, without ever stopping to think that that space in between may have actually changed, or obviously didn't, not to that extent anyway, to put us on a footing with the native peoples and how they think. You know, it wasn't like a trip at sea was brainwashing. It was just like it made people crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is an option. You know, you can maintain or not maintain, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, our character is partially because of his delusional nature and just grasping at straws in this voyage of his.
Mm-hmm.
How does that change his perception of things?
Okay.
And what's it going to do as a result of that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, well, there's two aspects to that. I mean, one is you're sharing the process, which I think is really, that's true value, and that goes into the guide of, you know, this is an example of creative writing, and, you know, what's going on with you, and you're talking about, okay, yeah, I'm absorbing things that are happening outside the story in your, you know, life that you're living now. Things are triggering direction or just ideas, whereas then you're in the story itself. Okay, what's going on with him? And, you know, and yeah, I find that fascinating, as well as you were, yeah, explaining what's going on for you, and then jump straight into the story and how, you know, he's managing it. Drukpa is managing it in the story, and how that might apply. And also, you know, what's going on in the story is how it's like also in life, we're all on this journey, and we're, you know, whether it's, you know, we're tiring, or like a sea journey, or, you know, dragging out, or, you know, you're wondering when we're going to hit the shore.
Yeah.
All these things, but it's all really life. That's what is happening. And whenever you come to a point in life, and every moment is another point in life, you've got your whole journey in the past to, you know, kind of think, this is what has happened to me, and that has an impact on what you see and what you don't see as well. Yeah. So yeah, those messages are just
it's kind of funny, because from an author's point of view, when I back myself into a corner, paint myself into a corner, however you look at it, there is an clear opportunity for me to abandon it and say, fuck it, you know. However, I think that in pushing this thing through to try and reach a conclusion is a choice. It's not a choice that people have to take. You know, if you get yourself in a jam, well, you can just close the book and nobody will ever know. But I think it's also important for people who are creatively expressing themselves to ask that question: is should I just slog my way through it?
Exactly.
You know, it's like this house that I'm continuously rebuilding, right? Old homes. Today I spent most of the day in preparation for putting up tile on the ceiling, you know, this really beautiful tin type stuff. And in order for it to stick, I had to remove on a step ladder like this, you know, 25 years of cooking grease and whatever on the ceiling, right?
Okay.
And so it's sort of like what Michelangelo must have felt like, you know. After the whole day, I feel like my neck is broken. But the process began with, well, of course, removing things from under the ceiling so that I could get to the ceiling, right?
Sure. Right.
There's a wagon rim in the kitchen that my grandfather made, which holds utensils from it, you know, so it's sort of like in the ceiling. Because I have a hood to put up too and a new lighting fixture, and not to mention the tiles themselves. So it's a process. And things like that require a lot of preparatory measures.
Okay.
Right? Not, and of course, I wouldn't want to put the tiles up there expecting them to stick to the grease on the ceiling. Right? So I had to clean it.
Yeah.
And the moment I pushed myself, this is a lot like writing, to actually, you know, go over hell and half of Georgia to bring in the ladder and the towels I had to cut up, what was it, the ammonia, the dishwashing liquid, you know, and get up there and do it, sort of pushed myself into a place where I knew that if I made that first swipe, starting in that corner,
Right.
and see what I was doing was plausibly accomplishing the preparation that I needed before I put that first tile up, you know, it's going to be contact cement, and, you know, is it square in the corner? A million other things, right? And is it going to end up looking like that, or would be nice if it looked like that? But when I put that first word down, when I put that first step into process, I knew I would finish it.
Right.
And I have learned that, like writing, that it's not something that you're going to finish in one day, because I decided I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to give it an overnight, you know, and then tomorrow I'm going to do it again. And then in that whole process, I'm calculating what needs to come next, what materials I need, blah, 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 blah. And that writing is no different. You know, I can leave it like it is and try to live in this place, and I don't think that's going to work, right? Because there's an opportunity to make things look better, right? A lot of stuff in that kitchen, you know, that I can make some good changes. Now, I won't move to where the refrigerator is, right? Or where the island is or whatever, but it will be done now that I've started it, and I kind of know what it's going to take to get there.
Yes, exactly.
Right? I'm going to have to cut tiles, you know, the labor of Hercules has just begun. But, you know, and it's going to take a lot of additional skills and patience and planning and so on to get this sucker right. And of course, I don't expect that a 150-year-old wooden house is going to be square. I'm thinking, oh, hell, how am I going to deal with that? You know, it's a never-ending story. And it's the same experience, funny enough, you know, that what I'm writing about is not about somebody putting tile on your ceiling in your kitchen. But process is the same.
Exactly.
Going through it, knowing that I know me well enough to know I will finish it. Right. And as I go through, I ask myself, do I need that? Blah, 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 blah. You know, I've got this big thing that goes around the light. I forget what it's called now, but, you know, it's like a Corona. And that has to go up there. I've decided on a new light fixture. And it's like the elements of this, like in this story, are best kept to myself. Because I've noticed that if I go and start bitching about what it is that I have to do and how long it's taking and blah, 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 that's a deterrent.
Sure.
So I don't spend a lot of time talking about stuff I can't change, just bearing with it and getting through it. And then it may not be War and Peace at the end. It may not be the Sistine Chapel. But you know what? I always tell myself, like, you know, like my story about my friend when I was working with him in the body shop. He said, if you have to ask somebody else if it's okay, it's not. So then I have to, which leads into there is no external authority. I am the judge of my own accomplishments.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's one of the major benefits of creative expression or creative writing in this case, is being able to be free. Like, I think you're leading towards the next piece, as
Yep.
you mentioned freedom in the title. So yeah, it's not to, I think what I'm getting out is, it's not to forget that aspect, that, you know, this is about being free, this is about creative expression, this is about letting things flow. And yes, there may be questions in your mind, am I on the right path, is this making sense, or you know, but it doesn't matter. This is creative writing, and
Yeah.
continuing to remind ourselves about that is important.
Yeah, and it reminds me of a comment I made before I started, which is don't stop to judge.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because if I do that, I'm going to kill myself.
Exactly.
Right? Not literally, but I'm going to shoot myself in the foot, or what other popular expressions we have. And, you know, when I go out to check the mail out at the road, I don't think about every step I take. I think I will get there, open the door to the mailbox, swing this little portion out and have a look inside to see if I've got any mail.
Yeah.
But there are, you know, 100 different processes in, you know, learning to walk and learning to be a human and whatever, that has to be done without me thinking about it. You don't think about, you know, all of the things you have to do to walk. That's you pretty much got that down by now. Right? And that's where we have to trust ourselves, right? And even if, let's say, you got a bum knee and you're walking out to the mailbox, you know, some people would say, oh, I can't walk out to the mailbox. Well, you're not going to get your mail. You're probably not going to walk more, which is going to be detrimental to your health, instead of just saying push on. Right?
Sure.
Get it done. Stop bitching and moaning about everything. You know, oh, now I've got to wring out the rags and la 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 forever. It's like, that's not what it's about. You need to remember that, right?
Yeah.
It's a bigger picture. And we can suffer through all of the, you know, problems that we face along the way. And if you want to get it done, you can walk away anytime. It's fine. Nobody cares. Just you.
Sure.
And if you don't care, then really nobody cares. So on we go.
Okay.
We go. I'll continue with the other one, which I think I have ready for tomorrow. Great. If we can stick to that. If not, let me know. You have something come up. But I'm driving to this point, and I'm just as excited as you are to know when we reach the launching pad what we're going to do with it, because that's going to be, you know, a real trick.
Okay. Right? Yeah.
But that's the objective. What can I say?
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Troy.
Thank you, Danny.
Okay, we'll see you tomorrow then, yeah?
Yep.
All right, thank you. And thank you. If there's anybody else out there watching, thank you too. Give us some comments. Let us know how we're doing. Yeah?
Yeah, that's right. Thank
you, Troy.
Bye.
Bye, man. See you later.